Alright, so hi you guys and welcome. Today we'll be talking about basic integration rules. Okay, now just some stuff to really help out with integration is to maybe expand. One of the techniques that really helps out a lot of people is that when they're dealing with something that is a polynomial and you're squaring it, you might want to actually just go ahead and square it, because now you can do integration of this, and then integration of this separately, and that makes your job a whole lot easier. Okay, another thing is to separate the numerator. In other words, if you have 1 plus x on top and x squared plus 1 on the bottom, it might be easier to separate the numerators. Okay, you also might need to complete the square. We've actually dealt with a couple problems where if you have a square root inside, you might be able to complete the square and just work this out. Okay, so that's kind of helpful too. Alright, divide improper fraction rational functions. Okay, improper rational functions. Okay, so in other words, just go ahead and start dividing it and start working with it. Okay, so that's actually some really cool techniques right there too. Also, add and subtract terms in the numerator. In other words, decompose it. And basically, if you just add 0 to it and then just work across, you'll be able to break apart the top into two fractions, or break apart the whole thing into two fractions. Use trig identities. Those can never be understated right there. Trig identities. Turn something complicated like this into something like this. All right, multiply and divide by the Pythagorean conjugate. Okay, so in other words, multiply top and bottom by 1. And that's a great calculus trick that helps out too. Another thing that we need to remember is our integration rules. You do need to know your rules just working with it. Okay, so some simple ones to just think about is that if you're ever dealing with something like this, if you need to integrate like 2 to the x, you need to remember that 2 to the x is e to the natural log. Well, it's going to be 2 e to the x times the natural log of 2. Okay, and so you just need to be able to understand that, because if you work with this, you should be able to simplify stuff like that. For example, if you're doing the integral, let's do the integral of 6 divided by x dx, and you're like going, I don't know what to do. Well, just bring out the constant. That's the most important thing. Okay, so you bring out the constant to the front, and then you just have to deal with this. And so it becomes a lot easier when you just separate stuff into stuff you know. So you can take it out by taking out the constant and multiplying it. Okay. Also, remember how to do your integration by parts and your substitution rule, the substitution U rule. Those should be huge parts that you have to remember. Okay, the power rule, always important. It always comes into play when you're working with stuff. And this is just getting us ready for the AP exam. Okay, so make sure you know your concavities. Make sure you have a list with you that you're working with at all times when you're doing integration. Okay, and differentiation as well. All right, so that's it for this lesson. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.